In this video, we'll be making a fancy kiddies hijab. The fabric I'll be using is 18 inches wide and 60 inches long. So that 18 inches is half yard. And I'm using half yard because it is a baby's hijab. So for someone that wants to make a 5-year-old hijab or any kid hijab, then you might need to use much more inches or much more yard than that one, depending on how long you want the hijab to be. But for this particular hijab, this is a baby's hijab and it is elbow length, like the elbow ends. So for someone that wants a much longer hijab or a much shorter hijab, so you will adjust the width or the yard accordingly. So 1 yard is 36 inches. So here I'm using half yard. Comment down below if you want another video on how to measure accurately for hijab and the corresponding fabric that will be used for such measurements, either for kiddies hijab or for an adult hijab. So I will be using 18 by 18 inches, that means 18 inches wide and 18 inches long. So I'm using the same inches for the breadth and length because I'll still be adding cap to the front of the hijab, so that will make the back length to be longer than the front. But assuming I'm not adding cap to the front of the hijab, the front measurement will be shorter than the back measurement, though it will still be joined. But maybe I'll make a separate video on a hijab that will not have cap, so that it will be well explanatory. Like the way I'm cutting it together, I will not cut it together. The front measurement will be shorter than the back measurement, but because I'll be adding a cap and because it is kiddies hijab, well, some people might prefer that it doesn't have cap, but I prefer that it has cap because it brings out the beauty of the face when it has cap. So I'll make another video where the hijab will not have cap and we'll make adjustments. I'll show you how the adjustments will be made, how the front panel of the hijab will be shorter than that of the back. But for this particular hijab, the front will be the same as that of the back. So I'll start the measurements from one of the closed end of the fabric. Remember, we folded this fabric into two. 18 will form a square, so I'll pick one end and start my measurements from there diagonally. So I'll measure a 18 inches from one edge round and it will give me a cone shape. Then I'll cut that out. Please give this video a huge thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. Please subscribe. If you look down, you will see that this is a new channel. Please support and show some love by subscribing to this channel. If there is any other type of hijab you want me to make, please follow me on Instagram to share the picture and I will make the video on how to make that type of hijab. Thank you. So we go ahead and seal the fabric, the cut hijab to that point, because that is where the measurement of the face of the baby reached. The next thing we'll do is cut the cap of the hijab. So this cap, I don't want it to be just ordinary cap, as we have named the hijab a fancy hijab, so I want it to have an extension. So we'll be cutting the cap with an extension. The extension will be used to tie the cap at the back, so this will make the hijab more firm and will bring out the shape of the face. Anything fancy, I want to make it like perfect. So we fold the fabric into two with the wideness of 3.5. That 3.5 already include the sewing allowance. So we fold it into two and we confirm that it is still 3.5 inches. So the length can be to your desired measurement depending on how long you want the extension to be. This is the cap with extension. So just as I said earlier, the extension is to your desired length. So we'll cut out the cap shape now. So we'll fold the fabric into 2 equal parts and we'll measure out the cap from the open end of the fabric. So we'll mark out 4.5. So this 4.5 is the standard for kids, because for adults is 7. So 4.5 for kids, or maximum of 5. Then from that 4.5 points, we come down by 1 inches. So we join the 1 inch that will come down with the edge. So we'll mark 1 inch at the extension part as well, and we'll cut out the 1 inch that we measured. And this is the cap with the extension. So after cutting it out like this, we notch the close edge of the cap in order to know the center. So we notch the center of the main hijab to that part where we measure out the face measurement. That is where we join the cap. So the notched part of the cap will be placed on the notched part of the hijab. Then we sew along the line to that point where the extension starts. So we are not sewing everything, we are sewing to the point where the extension starts. Before we add the cap to the hijab, we need to sew that extension on the wrong side to where the cap will start. So after that is when we'll join the cap to the hijab. So this is the sewn part of the extension. Then now we'll turn it out to the right part of the fabric, and this is where we join to the main hijab. So you remember the notched part of the main hijab will be placed on the notched part of the cap, and that is where we'll join together with the cap. And this is the outcome after joining the cap to the main hijab. So we can see the extension that will be used to tie the cap at the back. For the bead, we'll turn the hijab to the right side of the fabric. Then we'll insert the needle from the wrong side out of the fabric. These are the combinations of bead that I'll be using. I'll pick 2 of the lemon one and 1 of the pearl, like that, till it reach my desired length. So for this bead, you can make it as long as you want, depending on how you decide it to be. Though in this video I used 1 crystal bead and 1 pearl, but later I changed it to 2 crystal bead and 1 pearl, just for the crystal bead to come out. So this is the paper stone that I'll be using for the hem. I'll attach it using the iron, and this is the final look. I later add some pleats to the hem just to make it more beautiful. I wanted to laser cut it before, that is why I did not record this, but at the end I have to add the pleats so that the hijab can be bold. So I added the pleat of 1 inch. It was 2 inches, but with the sewing and hem allowance, it's reduced down to 1 inch. So trust me, this camera is not doing justice to this hijab. It is very beautiful, and I wish you would try it and tell me the outcome of your own hijab. Subscribe to this channel for more hijab tutorial. My next video will be how to measure correctly on the body and knowing the number of fabric, number of